Hello and welcome to episode 104, ExoSat's Innovation, Leading the Way in Space Debris Removal. Space debris is a topic which is kind of creating a lot of waves in the industry, both in terms of discussion, gathering the knowledge, as well as investing more in the solutions which will help us kind of create a more sustainable path in the industry, as well as for the humanity. Because without having a sustainable path, how the humans will evolve basically in the space exploration as well as for the space applications on Earth. So, without any delay, I would like to welcome the CEO of ExoSat, Guillaume Ramer. Hi, Guillaume. Welcome to the
Thank
podcast.
thank you for having me, Omkar.
Thank you very much for the time, Guillaume, because I can understand it's a busy time both for your company as well as for the industry too.
Yeah,
So it's great to have you finally, and it's great to see a lot of participants, especially the entrepreneurs, coming into the space debris innovation. Uh, this is the domain where I think we really need a lot of difference to be made. Which was not happening since quite several decades, I would say, because space debris is something, a topic which even the US government identified back in 1990s and before that as well. But
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
now only it has received a kind of a grip to kind of receive more momentum in terms of innovations as well as the investment from the private sector too. So yeah, before we actually take a jump into the topic about the exosat, the kind of solutions and the kind of vision
Yeah,
you have, prior to that, can you tell us briefly about yourself, basically, you know about your education,
yeah,
primarily I would say, because you're into the space debris domain, this is kind of much more offbit than doing a general satellite business. So what attracted you to space as a domain, and what kind of political aspirations that you kept in mind, because I believe space is a very much politically charged industry where the
absolutely.
government agencies decision making kind of affects a lot.
Yeah.
So an individual like you, from coming from such a domain, so how did you basically end up doing what you're doing at the moment?
Well, first of all, that's the very interesting thing about our company is that at the beginning, I absolutely did not study space whatsoever. Space has always been a passion of mine. We've always been fascinated by it with my brothers since I don't know since we were young and we were forced to watch long documentary on space situation because our grandfather was really passionate about it. Always told us how in 1969 he went into a little bar in French countryside because well didn't have a TV back then to see the moon landing, and I think it started from there when we were really young, and I'm saying we because we are both as passionate with my brothers. Um, and before diving into the space industry, I was mostly and deeply interested in public law, international relations, and global political science. I mean, if you see my library, it's mostly historical books, political books, and a lot of also more classic literature, but you mostly have politics and history. And so I earned a law degree in Assas in Paris, France. And then I pursued my master in defense politics with a huge focus on security. And I did my thesis on the militarization of space, which kind of take me back to my early passion of space. And really, I really enjoyed working on my thesis. And I said to myself, okay, let's go, let's dive into space industry for real. And so I started taking evening courses in astronomy and space from the University of Arizona, and then I studied space safety at the Technical University of Munich, and I really enjoyed that. And during this time, I also conducted extensive research on the space industry. Um, my goal was basically to work in space, build my company, and if possible, in an environmentally friendly approach. So to give you an idea of what it means for me, this approach, it's that at the beginning, I started working both on hydrogen propulsion and space debris, kind of looking which was the most interesting for me, and mostly which was the most interesting and urgent issue for the global population and for the space operators. And when I delved into hydrogen research, I saw that space launches account for about only 2% of the aviation's carbon footprint, which is by itself only 3% of the world's carbon emissions, something like that. And so I delve into the most pressing issue, and that was and that still is the space debris removal issue that we're all facing right now, and that's a really urgent priority for me.
Interesting. I mean, it's really great to see basically people coming from the non-space background and participating, because I personally pursued geology, but I still had, a specialization in satellite and remote sensing. So I was somewhere or the other, I was associated with the space industry. But I
Okay.
have quite a lot of colleagues now in the industry who had no connections with the space and are,
Yeah,
at a great positions or have founded their companies. I think this is the effect of the privatization and the encouragement from the government side as well, where we are
absolutely.
receiving quite a lot of wave of innovations through this kind of diversity of the background people coming into the industry. And
Absolutely.
moving ahead into the conversation,
Yeah.
uh, can you tell us about the founding story of ExoSat, and also
Yeah.
can you share some unique engineering and scientific challenges your team had to face to overcome in developing
Yeah,
the kind of
absolutely.
solutions that your company has?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Regarding the formation of ExoSat by itself, ExoSat is the merger really of two companies. I started my own company a couple years back. I was a student, so I had no money and I had limited, let's say, no connection or network in the space industry, to be totally honest. But I really wanted to, after my thesis, well, while I was working on my thesis, I started thinking about this dream of creating my own space company. And one evening, I just called my best friend and I told him, I have no money. I want to build my network in the space industry. And for that, I need a legal framework. So would you open non-profit organization with me? And so it started from there. At the beginning, I didn't create a company because it requires money to build a company in France. I created a non-profit organization, and this started from there. I created my non-profit. This gave me a legal framework. It allowed me directly to attend conferences, to grow my network, and I even presented and gave a conference on space sustainability at the Paris Air Show in 2023, while I was still representing a non-profit organization. With that, I expanded my network, and so I told my best friend, you're not forced to do the treasury for a nonprofit anymore. I'm closing the nonprofit and I'm creating an actual company because I started to save a little bit of money to
Yes.
start my company. So I launched my own company. It led to me getting in even more speaking opportunities in Bremen, in Germany, in Farnborough in the UK in 2024. And through these events, my network grew a lot. And I met Fabrizio, who is a very experienced Italian engineer that had its own company built with an American woman partner named Amy. Their technology was more advanced than mine because I'm not from a technical background, and Fabrizio has more than 25 years in experience in the space industry as an engineer in complex systems and subsystems. And but my vision, my lobbying were most more advanced than theirs, and so we decided to merge our companies to form ExoSat with their tech, my vision, creating a simple, a single, and a stronger entity. And yeah, and also regarding the engineering and scientific challenge that you told about at the beginning of the question, I don't know if it was a bit long to answer. I'm sorry, but I really like the
Yeah.
story about behind the non-profit organization. That was a very funny part of my life. Regarding engineering and scientific challenges, space
Yes.
debris removal technologies is available. I mean, it's been demonstrated, at least in theory, by companies like ClearSpace, Astroscale, or Calmaris Incorporated, which is a partner of us. KMI is a partner of us working with NASA on space debris removal. So very huge US company. And since since all these technologies, most of the technologies for debris removal are available, it's the policy that's lagging behind, not helping us moving forward on space debris remediation. To help prevent that, we are actively lobbying in the European Union as ExoSat for the next space debris management regulation that will, we hope, be released across all the countries of the European Union. But our technology, on the technical aspect, primarily utilizes established components. We use LiDAR systems, robotic arms, we use solar panels, so all these things exist, they work already. And what sets us really apart from our competitors is that we use our own patented laser technology, and it enables us, sorry, to remove debris more quickly and more cost effectively than our competitors. So it's really this aspect of the technology that was the main challenge and that we're working on. It's our laser technology.
Interesting. And I mean, the story behind the company is very interesting. I mean, you started, I mean, it's an economically viable way. I hope it serves as an inspiration for the future people as well, who are starting without any money, especially. I mean, it's really appreciable, starting with an NGO, using it as a platform to, gain the network, and then,
Yeah.
expanding into a national company. I think this does really prove that, you can start a company without
Oh
money.
yeah.
I think that's, yeah.
And to give you another quick insight, I won't tell you the face that my parents made when I told them I will start a space company after studying law for 5 years and with no money, so I will
Okay.
just create a non-profit organization. That
Okay.
was that I should have filmed it. Really, that was really crazy.
That's quite interesting and funny as well. So yeah, I mean, and you mentioned that also you guys merged, and then created Exosat actually with the partners
Yes.
that you found. So on the same lines, in what ways are you collaborating or competing with the major aerospace players, both private and national space agencies to included, in tackling the growing orbital debris problem?
So regarding first private companies, I will separate it this way. Um, our competitors in the space debris removal markets have a head start. All of them, substantial fundings, substantial partnerships, large engineering
Yes.
teams. So they have a head start. But our strength lies in two things. First, we have our unique patent on our laser technology in a lot of countries already. And we have a lot of agility. I mean, we are a small team. We are 5 people. We discuss with each other. We have a lot of transparency. We are efficiently, actually, currently, sorry, managing fundraising, tech development, strategic planning, lobbying in the EU and the French Parliament. So we have a lot of work going on for only 5 people. So it's very long days and huge dose of caffeine, but that's how it works. It's very interesting for us to move forward this way. But unlike most of our competitors, they are focusing on deorbiting the debris. So taking the debris and bringing it back into the atmosphere and hoping that it will destroy itself. But it's not always the case. And and we are here to transform, and that's literally how our laser technology works. We transform the debris that we are removing into our own fuel. So the more debris we remove, the more autonomy our satellite will have. And so we are dependent on debris, but we're here to remove them. And so that's like a circular economy that we've been working on for our technology, and that we are working on right now, and that's very promising for us. So we are really eager to move forward on that. And this market, the space debris remediation market, I mean the global space market, but more precisely the space debris remediation market, and the compound annual growth rate for the next 6 years is, I think, it's about 33%. So that's absolutely huge. The market is poised for rapid growth, and we need to establish our position by 2028, 2029. so that we are not completely out of the question and we can still get a market share. That's our work with and compared to private companies and mostly competitors. Regarding public entities now, we are not especially working with the US, with NASA, even though we have like a subcontractor contract with one of them contractors, so we could indirectly work with NASA, but that's not our primary
Yes.
target. We are based in Palaiseau, next to Paris in France. So we are mostly working with the French Parliament. We have contact at the Defense Commission there that helps us working on that because I don't know if you know, but the Ministry of Army has a sub-ministry in France that focuses on aerospace, basically. I was about to say that in French, but that was absolutely useless. And so we are collaborating with people there. We're collaborating with people in the European Commission at the DG DEFIS, so Defense, Industry and Space Directorate General. And also we are working with people at the CNES and mostly Connect by CNES to move forward on space tickets, fundraising, have help from engineers, meet a lot of people, and help us on public affairs for lobbying.
Interesting. And I would say, as you mentioned, that you guys are already kind of engaged with the government agencies.
Yes.
So something might have basically pushed you basically to uh, actually take up the steps. So can you describe some of the most harrowing or exciting real life orbital debris incidents that have driven your team's sense of mission for urgency towards the space debris?
Yes. What really built our motivation first, it's the old Kessler syndrome. You have a lot of debris. A debris into collision creates more debris, etc., etc. That's a snowball that's never ending. So that's the first thing that pushed us towards that. We also have the fact that we have more and more satellites up there, so we need to protect them to the best of our ability. Also, protect space operators because we don't often think of that, but without satellites, this podcasting video is not possible. GPS is not possible. Netflix, for example, is not possible. But weather is not possible, and on way more important levels, for example, in the army, without satellite communication and imagery, I mean, it's really complicated. And so all that pushed us towards working on space debris remediation and removal. And regarding recent incidents that also helped us, if I may say, first, a few years ago, there was a huge human-sized debris that fell into Saudi Arabia. Thankfully, in the desert, so nobody got hurt. But there was one. There was one in Saudi Arabia. There was one. I think it was. I think it was this year. A piece of the ISS, the International Space Station, fell into a
Yes.
home into Naples in Florida. And by the way, the homeowner sued the NASA, and there's currently something going on between them, a lawsuit. And
Okay.
most recently, and this thing I think happened in August, and is the perfect definition of the Kessler syndrome. A Chinese rocket just disintegrated in space. It created significant debris field, and this debris, they are moving at 28,000 kilometers per second, so they will create other damages to other satellites, and that's why we're
Yes.
here. And to go back on the Saudi Arabia incident, the fact that this debris fell, and also with the ISS piece, fell directly on Earth, it pushed us, at least in the beginning, not to work on deorbiting techniques. For example, our competitors, they are mostly focusing on getting a debris, bringing it back, and hope it will destroy itself in the atmosphere. We can't count on that when we see that there's a full human-sized debris in the desert in Saudi Arabia. And that's why we wanted
Yes.
to explore alternative solutions to our competitors for efficient space debris management globally.
Interesting. And basically, as you mentioned about given the incidents that you mentioned about the public domain, the civil domain as well. So
Yes.
how are you working to engage the general public and the policy makers to raise awareness about the critical importance of sustainable space operations?
Um, so the general public first, we are enhancing our public efforts through platforms like your podcast. Thanks again for the invite that you've sent me.
Yes.
We've had recent articles in Sat News and other journals, I think in September and October, to talk about that. We are boosting the my social media platform X, because since Elon Musk bought back X, a lot of Elon fans came on the platform, and a lot of them are also fans of space industry. So we have a huge space community on this platform. So we are using that a lot. And then what we are working on currently is building kind of a newsletter that we would like to publish on our LinkedIn and on my X account, to be able to let people know of recent incidents on the work that we are doing and on how it could affect them. I mean, the probability of having a debris falling into your home is pretty low, right? But the probability of a debris hitting a satellite that gives you your GPS navigation is more higher than that, and so that's what we need to raise awareness into the general public. And
Interesting.
uh, for for policymakers, sorry, for policymakers, we're actively, well, first lobbying European Union through the DGDFIS and French Parliament, because even though I didn't have a network in space industry in the beginning, my studies gave me a large network in the French Parliament and French public policies. So it helps us a lot on lobbying. With that, we also collaborate on public affairs, for example, with partners like KMI, our partner, like Privateer, because we met Privateer. They are mapping a lot of, I don't know if you know them, but they are mapping a lot of debris,
Yes.
and they are saying, yeah, you can launch this time at this moment. You won't have any problem normally. So we've been meeting industry leaders like Troy Morris, the CEO of Cal Morris Incorporated, and Moriba from Moriba Ja from Privateer. So we've been
Moribaja,
meeting,
yes.
yeah, we've been meeting them. That's been really fruitful, and we're moving forward on these fronts to collaborate with them to push the policymakers to take decisions about space debris remediation. And next to that, to add as much weight as possible when we go to lobby, we are reaching out to a lot of potential clients and a lot of space insurance company on how much a space debris management regulation and how much a space debris removal solution like ours would save costs for them. And this really strengthens our proposal and our position, and it positions us really as one of the most proactive players in the industry regarding EU regulation.
Interesting. And I mean, little bit taking a step ahead, as you mentioned a little bit
Yes.
about the kind of cooperation and the guidance that you're taking from the private place as well, like private use. So, what are your thoughts on different government agencies like maybe NASA, ESA, or even Indian Space Agency (ISRO) about the debris problem, or what are these agencies basically trying to do, or what kind of steps they're trying to take to kind of resolve this debris problem in space?
I know that Indian Space Agency as well as Japanese Space Agency, JAXA, are working on debris removal solutions. But for now, NASA and ESA are leading the way in this industry.
Yes.
NASA works a lot through SBIR, so it's Small Business Innovation something, and STTR. I can't give you the proper translation for it because well we cannot apply as a French company. So we've seen that there was these SBIR and STTR, But the problem for any US company that might want to focus on them is that NASA is focusing on small elements. They will put an SBIR for a very precise software line for your LiDAR, something like that, or it's mostly hardware, but you see what I mean, a very precise laser that they need you to work on.
Yes.
And they don't work on an holistic solution. They work on different parts, they send out to a public market, and then you postulate and you try to get it and to work with NASA. Next to that, they also fund huge companies like KMI, our US partners, to move forward on a space debris remediation problem. ESA, on its side, is collaborating with projects and funding projects. I mean, we can take a look at the Clear Space contract. I think it was in last November or December 2023 for between 80 and 110 millions. I think it's been adapted along the way, but they are taking a lot of risks also for space debris removal, and that's one of our target. We would love at some point to get funded by ESA, to work with ESA, with their engineers, and I think it would really help us move forward and position ourselves with a huge market share on the space debris removal market.
Interesting. I believe what you mentioned is really right. I think ESA and NASA have been basically consistently working on this. But staying in the European domain, and I have seen European Space Agency, very much closely in terms of both operations and the kind of funding. I still feel like the kind of things that European Space Agency has achieved. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but I would like to tell this on the platform. One of the complex missions all time in the history of space industry is something that has been achieved successfully by European Space Agency, and that was Rosetta mission,
Yeah,
where it passed by the comet. They also kind of landed their small lander as well over there. It was very complex. I mean, it's very hard to explain on this podcast in just 2 minutes.
yeah.
But because as a student, when I was studying at the International Space University, we had the opportunity to visit the Airbus facility in Munich.
Okay.
It's nearby Munich, actually not exactly in Munich. And we had a detailed outlook. And at that time, we got to know, because every part of the world, even in India, a small village where people don't know anything about the space industry, they don't know about the Indian Space Agency, but they know about NASA.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think ESA really needs to work on its
Soft
public
power.
outreach, because yeah, so far at public outreach, because I believe the agency has really achieved some amazing milestones, which only if you stay in Europe you'll get to know about it.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Uh, and
it's
and you
it's it's
also
really great. I
see
mean,
you also see a lot, and that's why they are really strong. For example, for telescopes that have been built jointly
yes,
by NASA and ESA, they are
yes,
always NASA parenthesis co-created with ESA
ESA,
satellites
yes,
and telescopes, and never the other way around. While both public entities worked alongside on this project, so I think it
alongside, yes,
yeah, I think ESA should work a lot on its public relations also. Maybe
yes.
you should invite them on your podcast to start working on that.
Absolutely, that's what I have in the pipeline. I think because we have crossed 100 episodes now, and it also provides a kind of spotlight on companies like you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where basically, if we have the government agencies, they have the kind of a pathway to connect with individuals like you. I mean, right now you are in an ecosystem where you have the contacts, where you have the network, but there are a whole lot of entrepreneurs which I have seen from both Central, Eastern, and the Western Europe, that they start with the things but they don't have the network. And I think
Yeah,
this can be a pathway where this agent
it's
government agencies can connect with such entrepreneurs in the future.
yes, yeah, and getting the network is really complicated.
Yes,
Really
absolutely,
complicated unless your family works there or you've had an internship as an engineer. But getting the network is really complicated. Getting the network when you're not a space person is even more complicated. You have to fake a lot to get the network
absolutely, yeah.
in the beginning. Um, And yeah, you have to fake a lot. Brings back good memories.
Yeah.
So
That's true. And I think we are almost at the end of the podcast. So this will be
okay,
my last question. I mean, you can navigate this question the way you want, because I personally believe you should tell what you want with the exosat. And I mean, the podcast always serves as a medium to reach out to the potential, not only the salespeople to sell your solutions, but also the potential investor, government agencies, public
yeah.
funds, and several other investors. So, from that perspective, I'd like to ask you, what message would you like to share with the industry about ExoSat's efforts in space debris removal domain?
Um, I I think the most important thing is urgency. I know it's in space. Not a lot of people care about what's up there, but it's a very space debris. It's a pressing issue. It's a really urgent matter that needs to be solved, and that needs to be solved quickly, as quickly as possible. I mean, we are putting all our energy into it, working on fundraising and on global strategy and tech development. We try to be as efficient as possible, but if we have people working with us, joining the team, help us grow, I think it will help us to solve this problem as fast as possible, and that's very important for us because it's a really urgent matter. And if people that are listening to this podcast are policymakers, VC funds, engineers, or even people that have ideas to how we could improve ourselves, work faster, work smarter, because most of the time working smarter is more important than working faster. So if we can work smarter, my DMs are open on X. You can reach out to me. It will be a pleasure to discuss with you and to move forward all together on this very pressing issue. I think that's the main idea. It's the urgency.
That's great. Thank you very much, Guillaume, for wonderful insights on the venture that you have started. And I
Wow.
believe we really need companies like you. And if you would like to expand, please do. Please find more people. And I hope really you get the funds that you need at the moment to develop the solutions and kind of expand into the market, because I believe this domain is something that really needs a great attention. Otherwise, I mean, it's impossible for companies like even SpaceX to launch satellites in the future if we are, clouded by the space debris.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we really need to solve this as soon as possible. So I wish you very well and all the
Thanks
best
a lot.
to you and your team as well.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I hope to have you on the podcast again, maybe when you have cracked a live mission. It would
Yeah,
be really exciting to have you on the podcast
I
again.
would I would love that. Thanks again for the invite.
Yes.
Thanks for reaching out to me on LinkedIn, and thanks also for the article you made about us last month. I read it. That was very cool. Thanks a lot.
Yes.